the girl who played with fire. It was the beginning of the end, and I didn't know it yet. I thought I had it all figured out. College was supposed to be about freedom, self-discovery, and growth. But somewhere between the late nights, the endless exams, and the growing list of unspoken expectations, I lost track of one very important thing: myself. Her name was Mia, and she was everything I never thought I'd fall for. She wasn't the kind of girl I normally paid attention to. She didn't fit into any neat category. She wasn't the typical girl next door, nor was she some over-the-top social butterfly. Mia was somewhere in between, a mystery wrapped in a riddle. I remember the first time I saw her. It was a Friday evening, the campus buzzing with excitement for some event I had no interest in attending. But as I walked past the open courtyard, I caught sight of her sitting alone on a bench, her legs crossed, a book in her hands. She looked out of place, but in a way that made me want to know more. There was something about the way she seemed to exist within herself, unbothered, detached from the world around her. I didn't think I'd ever talk to her. She seemed like she belonged to a different world, one that didn't include people like me. But life, as it often does, has a way of throwing us into places we least expect. It started with the casual hello as we passed each other on campus. Then, one day, she was there at the library, sitting across from me as I tried to finish my essay. She had this habit of showing up when I least expected it, like she was drawn to me, or maybe it was the other way around. It was only after several random encounters, a couple of shared coffees, and a few late-night study sessions that I found myself wanting to know more about her. We started spending more time together. At first, it was innocent, talking about music, movies, our classes, and our lives. But as the weeks went on, I started to see a different side of Mia, the kind of side I wasn't prepared for. She was wild, untamed. She didn't care about rules, about what people thought, about fitting into anyone's box. She was the kind of person who made you feel alive in a way that was almost dangerous. But the more I got to know her, the more I started to realize that Mia wasn't just a free spirit. There was something darker underneath it all, something that she didn't talk about, something that kept her at arm's length, even from me. It was that darkness that pulled me in. We started officially dating around mid-November. I say officially, but Mia never liked labels. She hated the word boyfriend, said it felt too possessive, said she didn't belong to anyone. I should have listened to that warning. I should have asked myself why someone would need to say that out loud. But I didn't, because I was falling for her. Fast, deep, stupidly. She had this way of looking at you, like she saw right through you, like your bullshit didn't work on her. And she liked to test people, to push them. Sometimes it felt like she was trying to see what would make me snap. Like the first time she casually mentioned her old friends. I'd asked her who she was texting so much. She shrugged and said, "Just people I used to mess around with." Relax. That word, used to, it rang in my ears. But I nodded, smiled, laughed it off. I didn't want to seem insecure. I didn't want to be that guy. The clingy, jealous boyfriend who couldn't handle a strong, independent girl. Mia rewarded me for that. Or maybe she was manipulating me from the start. I still don't know. Some nights, she'd disappear without explanation and reappear hours later smelling like a bonfire and whiskey, eyes glassy, smile lazy. When I'd ask where she was, she'd just say, "Out. Don't worry about it." And I didn't press. But something inside me was beginning to unravel. I remember one night in particular, cold, late January. Snow had just started to fall, quieting everything outside. I was in her apartment, waiting. She said she'd be back by 10. It was close to midnight. She finally stumbled in just before 1 in the morning, laughing as she kicked off her boots, cheeks red from the cold or maybe the alcohol. "Where were you?" I asked. "Bonfire," she said, collapsing onto her couch. "Out by the quarry. Some friends from before. You wouldn't know them." I just stood there, staring at her. Something about the way she said you wouldn't know them made my stomach twist. She looked up at me with that smirk she had, the one that made it hard to tell if she was joking or mocking me. "Don't look at me like that," she said. I didn't do anything wrong. And maybe she hadn't. But it didn't feel right. Not the way she said it. Not the way she smiled while she said it. Later that night, lying beside her in bed while she slept soundly, I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, mind racing. It was the first time I admitted to myself that I didn't trust her. And the worst part? I didn't know if I ever really had. But I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. And love, when it's poisoned, makes you doubt yourself before you ever doubt the person hurting you. So I stayed. Through the mood swings, the gaslighting, The way she'd flirt with other guys right in front of me just to see how I'd react. She called it fun. She called it honest. But it felt like fire, like being burned slowly and told I should be grateful for the warmth. By March, things were fragile. I was walking on eggshells around her. She said I was getting too controlling just because I asked her not to spend nights getting high with her ex's friend group. Said I was choking her freedom. So I backed off. Again. And that's when it happened. That night. The one I still wake up sweating from. The night she really showed me who she was. It was a Friday night. I had been expecting her to come over after work, like we'd planned. But by 10:30, there was no sign of her. No text, no call, just the silent buzz of the phone that never came. I tried to convince myself that maybe she had gotten caught up with something, maybe with friends or work. Mia was always doing her own thing, always on the move. But as the hours passed, that same knot in my stomach twisted tighter. I grabbed my phone again and sent her a simple message. "Where are you?" I hit send and waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 30. Still nothing. I told myself I was being paranoid. I had no reason to doubt her, right? Maybe I was just being insecure. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. So, I did the one thing I swore I wouldn't do. I went to her apartment. Her place was a short drive from mine, but by the time I pulled up, it was nearly midnight. Her car wasn't in the lot. I thought about driving around the block, maybe checking the usual spots, but something inside told me to just go inside. I walked up the stairs and knocked on her door. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. I pushed the door handle, surprised to find it unlocked. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside. The apartment was dark, silent except for the soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I called out for her, but there was no response. As I moved further into the living room, I caught sight of her phone on the couch. Its screen cracked, as if it had been dropped. My heart rate spiked. I picked it up, feeling the cool weight of the device in my hand. The screen was still lit, and I saw the notifications, the missed calls from her ex, the messages from people I didn't know. And then, the one that caught my attention, a photo. Mia, her arms around a guy I didn't recognize, their faces close, smiling in a way that made my chest tighten. It wasn't just a casual picture. It was intimate. What the hell is this? I thought. My mind raced, the questions flooding in. I didn't know what to do next. I should have put the phone down and left, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. And just as I was about to make a decision, I heard the sound of a car pulling into the lot outside. I didn't even think. I rushed to the window and peered through the blinds. Mia was getting out of a car, but it wasn't the car she usually drove. It was a black sedan. She wasn't alone. The guy who got out of the passenger side was tall, broad-shouldered, and laughing. He put his arm around her as they walked toward the building, talking and joking as if they'd known each other forever. I froze, my heart sinking to my stomach. Mia with him? No, this couldn't be happening. Not again. She unlocked the door, and the two of them stepped inside, her laughing voice echoing through the walls. I stood there, completely still, paralyzed by the sound of her happiness. The sound that should have been mine. I heard them in the other room, their voices growing louder. I couldn't tell what they were saying, but the feeling in my chest was unmistakable. Betrayal. I was being played. I backed away from the window, trying to make sense of what I had just witnessed. My mind screamed at me to confront her, to storm inside and demand answers. But something else held me back. Something deep down told me that whatever she had with this guy, it was already over for me. And in that moment, I realized I was just another pawn in her game. When the sound of their voices carried through the thin walls, I felt a wave of nausea hit me. It was like an out-of-body experience, like I was watching myself from the outside, paralyzed and helpless. I could hear Mia laughing, that carefree, familiar sound that used to make my heart skip, but now it twisted something inside me. She was laughing with him, not me. I stood there, the phone in my hand, staring at the cracked screen, unable to tear my eyes away. I had never felt so small, so insignificant. How had it come to this? How had we gone from the closeness we once had to this? I heard the distinct sound of their voices getting closer. They were heading toward the bedroom. I could feel my chest tighten with every step they took. I didn't know what to do. Should I leave? Should I confront them? But what would I say? What could I even say at this point? The thought of walking in there and seeing her with him, it was too much. Too much for me to bear. My hands were shaking as I looked around the apartment. It was all so ordinary. The same couch we used to sit on together, The same pictures of us scattered across the room. I had been part of this world, and now it felt like it had been ripped from me, like I was some stranger in the place I used to call home. I moved slowly, almost without thinking, toward the door. I had to get out of there, away from the suffocating atmosphere of betrayal. I didn't want to hear them anymore. I didn't want to be the person who couldn't let go. I reached for the door, but before I could turn the handle, I heard her voice. "Mitch." I froze. It was her. She'd heard me. I turned around slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. There she was, standing in the doorway, her face slightly flushed from the excitement. The guy was behind her, smirking, like he knew something I didn't. "What the hell are you doing here?" she asked, her voice a mixture of confusion and something else, something I couldn't quite place. I stared at her for a moment, the anger bubbling up in my throat. "I could ask you the same thing," I said, my voice cold. "What's going on here, Mia?" She opened her mouth to speak, but the guy behind her interrupted. "Mitch, man, it's not what you think." I wanted to scream at him, tell him to stay out of this, but I couldn't even bring myself to look at him. All I could focus on was her face, her eyes. I needed to understand. "Really?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Because it looks like you're with him, and I don't even know who the hell he is." Her eyes flicked between me and the guy. She looked guilty, but also defensive. "Mitch, it's complicated. I didn't mean for you to find out like this, but what?" I cut her off, unable to contain the frustration anymore. "What is this, Mia? Was it all just a game? Was I just someone you kept around when you were bored?" Her face softened slightly, and she took a step closer. "No, it wasn't like that." "Then what is it like?" I asked, my voice rising. "You told me you loved me. You promised me we'd figure it out. And now you're here with him. What the hell am I supposed to think?" She sighed, a long, exasperated breath, and shook her head. "I don't know. I didn't want to hurt you. I just needed something else. Something that wasn't you." The words hit me like a slap to the face. Something else. Something that wasn't me. I couldn't breathe. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Everything around me became a blur, her face, the guy's smug expression, the walls of the apartment I thought I knew. It all felt distant, like it wasn't real. But it was real. This was my reality now. I turned away, my body shaking with rage and pain. I can't do this. I can't be here. I can't be part of whatever this is. Mia's voice trembled when she called my name again. "Mitch, please." But I didn't stop. I couldn't. The door swung open behind me, and I stepped out into the cold night air, my heart in my throat. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Because if I did, I knew I'd break. And I had no idea how to put myself back together again. I walked for what felt like hours, but it was probably only minutes. My feet moved on autopilot, my mind numb, swirling with questions, anger, and hurt. I didn't even know where I was going anymore. The city around me felt empty, like a void, and all I wanted was to escape from the mess that had become my life. I hadn't expected this. I thought, maybe naively, that what Mia and I had was real. I'd given her everything, my trust, my heart, my time. And now, standing outside, alone in the night, it felt like I had nothing left. Nothing but this hollow, aching pain in my chest that wouldn't go away. I stopped walking when I reached the park, the one Mia and I used to visit together when everything was simpler. Back then, it had been our place, where we'd talk for hours, our words blending with the quiet rustling of leaves and the distant hum of the city. Now, it was just another reminder of how much had changed, how much she had changed. I sat down on the same bench where we'd once sat together, though it felt cold beneath me. The air was still, but it was like I could feel the tension pressing in on me from all sides. And then I thought about him, the guy. I didn't even know his name, but it didn't matter. I didn't need to know him to know what he was to her. It was all there in her eyes when she looked at him. It was the same look she used to give me, the one that made me feel like I was the most important person in the world. But now, it was him. The thought twisted something deep inside me. I wasn't angry at him. Not really. I was angry at her. But I couldn't help the jealousy, the resentment that bubbled up every time I thought about them together. What did he have that I didn't? Why wasn't I enough for her? I closed my eyes, trying to push those thoughts away, but they just kept coming back, relentless and painful. A voice broke through my thoughts, sharp and familiar. "Mitch." I turned to see Jake standing a few feet away, his hands shoved into the pockets of his jacket. His face was creased with concern, his brow furrowed. "What are you doing here?" he asked, stepping closer. "I've been looking for you." "I needed to get out," I replied, my voice flat. "Needed to think." He didn't push. He just sat down beside me, the weight of his presence a small comfort. We sat there in silence for a while, the city sounds filling the space between us. Finally, he spoke. "Man, I'm sorry." I looked at him, unsure what he meant at first. "Sorry? For what?" "For all of it." Jake's voice was low, almost hesitant. "For what happened with Mia. I know you care about her, but she's not who you think she is." I clenched my fists at my sides, the anger rising again. "Don't tell me what I think about her." "I'm not," he said quickly. "I'm just saying, she's not right for you, Mitch. You deserve better than this." I wanted to yell at him, to tell him that he didn't understand, but I didn't. I just sat there, staring ahead, not sure how to respond. He was right in some ways. Mia hadn't been right for me in the end, but that didn't make the pain any easier to deal with. It didn't make her betrayal sting any less. I looked at Jake again, his face showing a rare kind of softness. "How did you know?" He sighed, looking away for a moment. "I've seen how she is. How she treats people when she gets bored with them. She's always been like this, Mitch. You just didn't see it." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had seen it, deep down, but I didn't want to admit it. I had ignored all the red flags because I didn't want to believe that the person I cared about could hurt me like this. I ran my fingers through my hair, the frustration bubbling up again. I thought she was different. I thought she was real. "She's not," Jake said gently. "And that's not on you. It's on her. You don't have to keep fighting for someone who doesn't see you for who you are." I sat in silence, his words sinking in slowly, but they didn't make the pain go away. Not yet. Maybe they never would. Jake stood up, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You'll get through this, man. You just need to let go." Let go. I had heard that word 1,000 times, but I wasn't sure I knew how to do it. How do you let go of someone who had been your everything? How do you erase the moments that once felt so real? I looked up at him, my voice quiet. "What if I can't?" Jake's eyes softened, his expression understanding. "Then take it one step at a time. You don't have to have all the answers now. Just don't stay stuck." I nodded, even though I wasn't sure I believed him. But I knew I couldn't stay where I was forever. I had to keep moving forward, even if it felt impossible. As Jake walked away, leaving me with my thoughts, I looked out at the park. The trees swayed in the wind, and for the first time that night, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could start to breathe again. The pain would still be there. The heartbreak would still linger. But I wasn't going to let it define me. Not forever. And that was the first step. I woke up the next morning with a heavy weight on my chest. The lingering emotions from the night before were still there, dull and persistent, a reminder of everything that had shattered in my life. I couldn't shake the image of Mia's face, the way she looked at him, how she left me for someone else without a second thought. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. The sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting faint shadows on the wall. The room felt cold, like it hadn't been lived in for a while. I was still tangled in the blankets, but I couldn't bring myself to get up. What was the point? What was there left to face when everything I thought I knew was crumbling around me? I pulled the covers over my head, trying to shut out the world. But it didn't work. The world kept coming back, whether I wanted it or not. I grabbed my phone, scrolling mindlessly through the messages that had piled up while I was lost in my thoughts. Most of them were from Jake, asking if I was okay. He was the only one who knew, really. The only one who understood what had happened. The rest of my friends? They didn't know Mia like I did. Didn't know what it felt like to be with her, to think that she was everything I needed. I had to tell them eventually. They would figure it out when they saw the change in me, when they noticed how I wasn't the same Mitch anymore. But not today. Not yet. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Jake. This time, he asked if I wanted to meet up. I hesitated for a moment before replying. "Yeah, I'll be there in an hour." I didn't want to go out, but I knew I needed to. Staying in my head, stewing in the pain, wasn't going to fix anything. Maybe talking to Jake would help, or at least distract me for a while. When I arrived at the coffee shop, Jake was already there, sitting in a corner booth, his eyes scanning the room like he was waiting for someone. I could tell he'd been keeping an eye on me, maybe trying to figure out when I'd finally break down, or when I'd get the courage to do something about this mess. "Hey, man," he said when I sat down. "How you holding up?" I shrugged. "You know, same old." "Yeah, I get it." Jake leaned forward, his expression serious. "Listen, I know you're in a lot of pain right now, but you can't let her keep doing this to you. She's not worth it, Mitch. You deserve better than that." I looked at him, his words sinking in. I had heard it before, but something about hearing it again from him made it seem real. Maybe he was right. Maybe Mia wasn't worth it. Maybe I had been chasing something that was never real in the first place. But that didn't make it easier. It didn't change how deeply I felt for her, or how much it stung to let go. I don't know, Jake. I don't know if I can just walk away from everything we had. Jake's face softened. I know it's hard, man, but you're not the one who walked away. She did. And if she could throw it all away that easily, then maybe it's time you start looking out for yourself. I looked down at my hands, the words hitting harder than I expected. I didn't want to admit it, but I knew he was right. I had been holding on to something that wasn't real anymore, and it was only hurting me in the process. I don't even know where to start, I muttered. It feels like everything's falling apart. Jake put a hand on my shoulder. Start with yourself. Take care of you. Do what makes you feel good again, even if it's something small. Don't let her or anyone else dictate how you feel about yourself. You're more than what she made you believe you were. I nodded slowly, absorbing his words. It wasn't a quick fix, and I wasn't going to magically feel better overnight. But maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something different. Over the next few weeks, I took things one day at a time. It wasn't easy. There were still moments when I thought about Mia, when I wondered if I was making the wrong choice by walking away. But then I remembered Jake's words. I wasn't the one who had thrown everything away. She had, and I deserved better. I started focusing on myself, doing things that made me feel like I was in control again. I hung out with friends who actually cared about me, people who didn't want to see me hurt. I started picking up old hobbies, things I hadn't done in months because I'd been too wrapped up in Mia. Slowly, the pain lessened. It didn't disappear, but it became something I could handle. I didn't reach out to Mia. I didn't chase after her. It was hard, but I realized I didn't need to. I didn't need her to feel whole. And one day, while sitting at the park, I thought about everything. About Mia, about the hurt, and about how far I'd come since that night when I had felt so lost. I wasn't whole yet, but I was getting there. I was starting to find myself again, piece by piece. It wasn't the end of the story, but it was the beginning of something new, something better. And that, in the end, was enough.